He walked into the upscale restaurant, expecting a quiet lunch, until his world stopped cold. There she was, the woman he once promised forever to, the woman carrying a child, but now serving tables, her hands trembling under the weight of empty plates. Her eyes locked on his, and in that instant, years of love, betrayal, and pain crashed back. How did she end up here? And why did the sight of her leave him unable to move? This was the moment everything he thought he knew was about to unravel. Marcus Hale had it all: wealth, influence, and the kind of confidence that came from never hearing the word no. His investments flourished, his name opened doors, and his tailored suits fit like they were stitched from success itself. But beneath the gloss of his perfect life was a chapter he had slammed shut years ago, one marked by whispered arguments, late-night tears, and a love story that ended with shattered trust. Her name was Alina, beautiful, fierce, and unafraid to challenge him when the rest of the world bowed. They had built dreams together once, dreams of a home, children, and a future untouched by the ugliness of the world. But those dreams crumbled under the weight of differences they couldn't bridge and wounds they never healed. After the divorce, Marcus buried himself in work. Rumors of her struggles reached him now and then, but he dismissed them, telling himself it was no longer his concern. Until today, the soft clink of glassware and low hum of conversations faded the moment he saw her. She wasn't the confident woman he remembered. Her uniform was worn, her smile strained, and her once bright eyes carried a heaviness he couldn't ignore. And then he noticed she was pregnant. A rush of questions slammed into him. Whose child was she carrying? How had life brought her here? And why, after all this time, did seeing her like this make his chest ache in a way that success never could? Marcus couldn't shake the image from his mind, even as the waiter led him to his table. Every detail of Alina's appearance gnawed at him. The faint swelling of her feet, the weariness in her movements, the way she kept her head low, as if hiding from the world. When she approached his table, her voice was polite, professional, but her eyes avoided his. "Good afternoon. Can I get you something to drink?" The words were mechanical, a script she repeated countless times. He wanted to ask everything at once. What happened to you? Who hurt you? But the presence of other customers, the ticking clock of his own pride, kept him silent. He ordered coffee, and as she turned away, he caught sight of a man at the far corner of the room, a middle-aged white customer smirking as Alina passed. The man muttered something under his breath, and Alina's jaw tightened, though she said nothing. Marcus watched, unsettled, as it happened again. A group of well-dressed patrons snapped their fingers at her, speaking to her like she was beneath them. No one else seemed to notice, or care. It was subtle but sharp, the kind of treatment that leaves invisible scars. When she returned with his drink, Marcus tried to catch her eyes. "Alina," he began, but before he could say more, the restaurant manager, a tall man with cold eyes, intercepted her. "Table 5's waiting. Move." His tone wasn't just firm, it was laced with something Marcus couldn't ignore. The word struck a nerve. This wasn't just about a bad boss or impatient customers. This was the quiet cruelty of a world that decided some people didn't deserve dignity. And here was Alina, once a woman who had walked beside him as an equal, now enduring in silence. Marcus's chest tightened with guilt and something else. Anger. He had walked away from her life, yes, but seeing her like this made it impossible to pretend she was just another stranger. As she passed again, balancing a tray, the man in the corner accidentally bumped her, sending a glass of water spilling down her arm. The look on his face made it clear it was no accident. Alina's hand trembled, but she apologized anyway. Marcus gripped his coffee cup, the heat searing into his palm. This wasn't the reunion he had imagined, and the questions in his mind were now burning with urgency. He had to know, how had she fallen so far, and who had helped push her there? Marcus's patience shattered when he saw it happen. The same smirking man from earlier reached out as Alina passed, his hand brushing across her belly. It was quick, but not quick enough to be dismissed as an accident. The smug look on his face told Marcus everything. He had done it deliberately. Alina froze. Her lips parted as if to speak, but the manager's voice cut through the air before she could. "Get back to work," he barked. No acknowledgement of what had just happened. No protection. No respect. The man chuckled, lifting his wine glass like it was all some private joke. Marcus pushed back his chair, so hard it scraped the floor, heads turning toward him. He didn't care. "Hey!" His voice carried across the restaurant, sharp and commanding. The man looked up, eyebrows raised but still grinning. "That's my ex-wife you just put your hands on," Marcus said, stepping closer. "And if you think I'm letting that slide, you're dead wrong." The smirk faltered, but the man tried to laugh it off. "Relax. Just having a little fun." Marcus's jaw tightened. "She's pregnant. You don't touch a woman like that. Ever." Silence fell over the room. The manager started toward them, muttering something about calling security, but Marcus wasn't done. He turned to him, eyes blazing. "You saw that and said nothing. You think this is okay?" The manager hesitated, shifting under the weight of the stares now aimed at him. For a moment, Marcus saw the truth laid bare. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was a pattern. And every time someone like him stayed silent, it gave men like that the confidence to keep doing it. Alina's eyes finally met his, a mix of shock, gratitude, and something else. Fear. Marcus realized this confrontation was more than just about the man at the table. It was about everything she'd been enduring, and whether he had the courage to stand with her now. The manager backed away under the weight of the silence. The smirking man muttered something and left cash on the table before slipping out, suddenly finding the exit more interesting than the confrontation. Marcus stood there for a moment, his pulse still pounding. Alina turned toward him, her hands clasped protectively over her stomach. For the first time that afternoon, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Why now, Marcus? Why step in today?" He didn't have an easy answer. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was a realization that walking away years ago hadn't severed the invisible thread that still tied them together. Or maybe it was simply that watching her be humiliated cut deeper than he expected. He offered to walk her outside. She hesitated, then nodded. The late afternoon air was cooler, softer than the stifling tension inside. They didn't talk much. There were too many words that would take hours to unpack. But she finally told him the truth. After their divorce, she struggled to find steady work. Doors that opened for others closed for her. Employers found ways to disguise their bias, but the message was always clear. She didn't belong. And when she got pregnant, the judgment doubled. She took the restaurant job because it was the only place that would hire her without questions. Marcus felt the weight of her words settle heavy in his chest. This wasn't just her story. It was the story of countless others forced to fight battles no one sees. Before they parted, he told her, "No one should have to go through what you've been through. Not you, not anyone." As she walked away, he knew he couldn't undo the past, but he could choose, from this moment on, to no longer be silent, because silence is what keeps injustice alive. And the question remains, how many more times will we look away before we finally act?